Imagine you're alone in your bedroom in the dorm you share with your friends. You're sat on your bed completing some work, and you hear one of your friends calling your name. You respond, asking what they want, but you're met with silence. You think no more of it, and carry on with your work. But just seconds later, you hear the voice again. Only this time, it's much, much closer. What these friends experience in their dorm is absolutely terrifying. You do not want to miss this one. I'm your host, Severed Soul. Moya had lived in a dorm with 3 roommates, Avery, Bree and Lara. 4 friends, 4 completely different personalities and, as it turned out, more than one presence sharing the space with them. The activity had started in early October. Moya reported that the first sign of anything paranormal came one morning when she claimed to have watched what she could only describe as a shadow figure walk straight through the door and into the hallway. Now, at first, she'd assumed it was just Lara leaving for class, but then she realised that the door hadn't opened at all, and on inspection, Lara was still fast asleep in bed. And from that point on, the activity in the dorm only escalated. What can only be described as shadow figures had started manifesting in both bathrooms. Moya had also said that she had started noticing a shadowy entity in the common area too, the shared kitchen and couch space where everyone spent most of their time. But Moya wasn't the only one who was seeing strange things in the dorm. Avery had started noticing strange things too. She woke up one morning and noticed that the small mirror that she kept on the vanity unit had been angled directly towards her bed. Now, this was particularly strange to Avery because every morning she woke up and from where her bed was, she could always see the bathroom door in the reflection of the mirror. But, for some reason, on this morning, she was looking directly at herself, which she found very strange. Moya said that both herself and Avery had always considered themselves sensitive to the paranormal. They tended to see things and notice things that other people didn't. Bree, on the other hand, didn't see much, but she did sense things. She was definitely sensitive to energies, and she said that the energies she felt in that dorm weren't positive ones at all. So the dorm had 2 entrance doors, one on Moya and Lara's side and one on Avery and Bree's side. That second door, the one on Avery and Bree's side, had started unlocking itself in the middle of the night when both girls were in bed. And that was when the activity really ramped up. The bathroom door on their side had also begun opening and slamming shut on its own. The light would also switch on by itself, and it was one of those noisy pull cord ones, so even if the door was closed, they could still hear it clearly. And Avery's bedroom door had also started opening and closing on its own. So, as you can see, at this point, the activity was almost constant and each of the girls were having their own encounters. Whenever Bree had been home alone, the dorm had felt openly hostile, heavy and aggressive, like something inside the dorm really didn't want her there. And then something happened to Moya that she really couldn't explain away. So one night she'd been out with her boyfriend and they'd ended up having an argument about the amount of time he spent with his friends. Typical young relationship sort of stuff. We've all been there. When she returned home, Moya had gone into her room and shut the door behind her. Very soon after, Moya said she heard Avery knocking on the door. Now, Moya really wasn't in the mood for talking, so she politely asked Avery to leave her alone and said that she'd speak to her in the morning. At that, Moya had barely even finished her sentence when she was interrupted by 3 more knocks on the door. Much louder this time, more like bangs than knocks actually. So Moya got up from her bed and opened the door, expecting Avery to be standing there. But she wasn't. The area outside the door was dark and empty. So Moya's thinking, well, that's strange. She literally just knocked on the door. Why would she walk away so quickly? Anyway, Moya was already emotionally drained, so she didn't think too much of it. She closed the door, turned off the light, and climbed back into bed. As soon as Moya's head touched the pillow, she heard someone trying her bedroom door handle as if they were trying to enter the room. So she jumped up out of bed as quickly as possible, once again to see what Avery wanted. And once again, Avery was nowhere to be seen. The next morning, she asked Avery what she wanted and why she kept knocking the door and trying the handle. But Avery was just like, seriously, I have no idea what you're talking about. As soon as you went into your room, I went into mine. Bree said she hadn't been around there either, and Lara hadn't even been home. That was when the friends started having serious conversations about what was going on in their dorm. They had come to believe that there were 3 separate entities in the dorm, one on Avery and Bree's side and one on Maya and Lara's side, and one lingering in the common area. Personally, I don't see why it couldn't have all been caused by the same entity, but this was their encounter, not mine. They also noticed something else. The activity had begun around the same time building management had torn open part of their wall to repair flood damage. They figured that something may have been sealed inside, and now it had been released. One night, Maya and Bree had been sitting in the common room when something strange happened. Every time Maya tried to speak, a loud knock had slammed against the wall. At the same time, both of them had felt something touch them while they sat on the couch. Another day, Maya had been alone in the kitchen. As she turned towards the fridge, she watched the door to Avery and Bree's side unlock right in front of her. She checked the peephole and nobody was outside. Both Avery and Bree were notorious for fumbling with their keys. It was kind of an ongoing joke between the group, and there had been no sound at all. 2 weeks later, Maya reported that she, Bree and Lara had all gone home for reading week, but Avery stayed behind on her own. And according to Avery, activity in the dorm went totally wild. So, Avery reported loud sounds like knocking and banging coming from Maya and Lara's side, and scratching noises coming from the common area, which was unsettling, but nothing compared to what she heard coming from Bree's room. Avery had heard the springs of Bree's bed squeaking over and over as if someone was jumping up and down on the bed. Unsure whether Bree had returned early, Avery went to knock. She called through to check if Bree was home, but instead of an answer, Avery heard what sounded like growling, like a dog coming from inside the room. But the door was locked, and Avery knew that there was absolutely nobody in there. When everyone returned the following week, Maya said that the dorm just felt wrong immediately, like something had taken hold of the dorm in their absence, especially on Maya's side, which smelt like rotting food, even though both she and Lara had made absolutely sure nothing had been left behind. That night, Maya and Avery performed an egg cleanse. Now, I had never heard of an egg cleanse, so I had to do a little bit of my own digging to find out exactly what it was. An egg cleanse, also known as limpia de huevo, is a traditional healing practice that has roots in various cultures, including Mesoamerica, Greece, and Scotland of all places. So, the ritual involves using a raw egg to cleanse an individual's aura and energy field, helping to rid them of negative or toxic energy that may be affecting their well-being. So, to perform an egg cleanse, you simply take a raw egg and roll it over every part of your body, from head to toe, not forgetting the soles of the feet. Once this step's completed, you would proceed to the next step, cracking the egg over a cup of water, at which point you would read the yolk and white patterns. Now, 9 times out of 10, the egg would have a normal appearance. The white of the egg would have a clear but slightly cloudy appearance, and the yolk would have a normal yellow blob-like appearance. But there are things to look out for, otherwise, what would be the point? In Maya and Avery's case, both eggs came back with spikes, which is a very bad sign indicating that they were indeed both dealing with a negative energy or energies. But for the first time in weeks, Maya and Avery actually had a quiet, peaceful night at the dorm. Bree, on the other hand, not so much. Her room simply erupted with activity. Objects started moving on their own. Sounds of footsteps and knocks echoed through the door. And then, once again, at 3 a.m, the door on her side started unlocking itself. The very next day, the friends decided to take steps to try to rid their dorm of the entities that dwelled within. First of all, they made a protective spray using cedar, pine, rosemary and cinnamon. Following advice from a local spiritual practitioner, they lit protection candles and burned sage. And things did start to calm down. Well, for a while at least. Before long, the bathroom lights on Avery and Bree's side started switching on again. Bree began hearing noises again and witnessed objects moving on their own. Avery continued seeing and hearing things, including something that took the sense of dread and fear to a whole new level. So, one evening, Avery was sitting on her bed trying to complete some college work when she was interrupted by Bree calling her name. She called back to her saying, "I'm trying to get this coursework done, what do you need?" Silence. So, she just decided to ignore her and carry on with her work. According to Avery, it must have been less than 20 seconds later, she heard it again. Exactly the same voice, exactly the same pitch and tone. The only thing that was different was where the voice was coming from. This time, the voice was coming from under Avery's bed. Now that is fucking creepy. Avery didn't even hesitate. She grabbed her notes and her pen and she ran out of the dorm as quickly as she could and waited for her friends to return. As for Maya, she said that she kept seeing shadow figures in her peripheral vision, and that rotting smell just kept coming back no matter what they tried. More recently, they doubled down on protection, more candles and more sage. Whilst Avery was away for the weekend, Bree and Maya cleansed their rooms together. But nothing seemed to help. They both witnessed the doorknob on Maya's side turning and rattling on its own, and Maya swore she felt something cold brush past her as she walked into the common room. The next morning, Avery woke to find her phone under the bed, even though she knew she'd 100% left it on her desk, and her bedroom door was wide open. Again, she was absolutely certain she'd closed it. Maya said that Lara never experienced as much activity as the others, but then she was away from the dorm a lot of the time. Over their time in the dorm, activity seemed to peak and trough. Sometimes the activity was constant all through the dorm. Then other times they'd go weeks without incident. But what they all agreed on was whatever was in the dorm, it was very real and very active until the day they finished term and walked away for good. And that's all we have time for today. I really hope you enjoyed that story. If you did, please do me a huge favour and smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave any thoughts on today's story in the comments. Oh, and don't forget to put all notifications on so you don't miss future episodes. Thanks for watching. This is Zog, and I'm your host, Severed Soul.